Okay, so hi. I called for this meeting kasi I would like to discuss this personally. This is a crucial part of our subject because this is the start of literally thinking about your capstone, anong balak nyo sa buhay, what are your plans, who are you going to be with, and all those stuff. So this will also cover what projects do you want to invest to, what projects do you want to create, are they feasible, are they possible in that way, and what are the methods and the uh, project development cycle or yes, that you're going to use when you're creating your projects. So after this discussion, we're going to have your groupings already in order for us to proceed with the uh, baby thesis part of the lessons. So, kasi yung final output nyo for the SAT is your title and, basic papers and initial planning like feasibility study and all of those, yung mga system requests and all those stuff. You can you can continue this to your capstone one, which is already next semester, or you can create another one and just do this for the sake of practice. Pero yeah, I recommend kasi na once you do this, what you're going to use in this subject is already what you're going to do sa capstone. Para kasi yung papers, ganyan, hindi na siya masyadong mahirap, kumbaga. Less job for everyone. Okay, so project selection and management, what we're going to talk about is we're going to explain how projects are selected, describe various approaches to the SDLC. So what is the SDLC again? So this is a system development life cycle. So you have planning, design, oh my God, application and maintenance. I think that's it. Okay, that can be used to structure a development project. So this also will explain how to select a project methodology based on the project characteristics. So become familiar with project estimations, project work plan, describe project staffing, issues and concern, describe and apply techniques to coordinate and manage the project and explain how to manage risk on the project. Please feel free to interrupt me if you have questions, and please feel free also to interrupt me if I'm going too fast. Okay. So the first thing, this is not actually equivalent to the what do you call this? The main programmer or the system analyst. This is another job, another part of this is another job for the team when you're creating a system. So this is a project manager, or as also known as team leader. So it has a primary responsibility. Ah, okay. Okay, so this is the primary responsibility of managing the hundreds of tasks and roles that need to be carefully coordinated. So if you're the project leader or the project manager or the team lead for the project, you're na hindi necessary na it's wait, nagfi-feedback ako. Paki-mute po. Can you please mute your microphones? Nagfi-feedback ako. Ang arte ni Madam. Okay. Okay, so what I'm saying is if you're the project manager or the team lead, it's not necessarily that you're programming or you're creating the front end or the back end, because what you're already doing with this management of the project is already big. Like the system cannot move, or the production or the team cannot move without you. Okay, so project management has evolved into an actual profession with many training options, professional certificates. You can actually, if you're not so good with programming or what, you can actually opt for this path when when you graduate. Pero syempre gapang 'yan, galing ka sa baba, ganon. But if they can see your potential with managing a team and making sure everything is in line with your Gantt chart or with your scheduling, you can actually be rich with this job. Okay, so there are dozens of software products naman that are available to support project management activities. I personally use Monday.com. Maybe you see that in your ads on YouTube. It is really, really good in, setting deadlines, seeing if things are getting into process, ganyan. So I even use it in Marahuyo and in other things that I do. This is not just for software programmings and stuff. Okay, so next is we have project selection. So what are the things that you need to consider when you're going to select your project? Okay, so first is the size. What is the size and how many people are needed to work on the project? So last time, if you remember, I asked you kung if you have any idea who are your group mates already and how many are you in a group. So this will answer this because I remember they only allowed four people in one group last sem. So yung ongoing na thesis ngayon, they only allow four people in the group. So if that's the case, make sure that your project is really can be finished by four people only. Don't go overboard like doing a biometric AI with eye scanner and laser beam control with ginkgo biloba extract, ganyan. If you cannot finish it with four people only. And also make sure that you will not get burned out and all those things. So I asked my advicees, I'll give the example na lang sa current advice ko today. My current advice is creating a mobile app slash web app slash, ayan, so mobile and web app ng what's their project? Their project is titled E2Load. So it's a ride-hailing app for tricycles here in Vizcaya. So I said that they're kind of going overboard because they're doing both mobile and web application. And then, of course, they also have the SMS integration. So pero kahit paano nakakaya, they're doing their best to finish the project and they're not sleeping anymore. So there are those are the things that you need to consider. Okay, so how many people are needed to work on the project? And then of course, if you're planning naman to create a project that is only good for one person, like it's really small, like kaya ng iisang tao, like a person can do it, your title will not be approved when it comes to the title defense. So you need to justify the means and the ends that you need those four people in your team in order to finish a project. Ayan. Next one is the cost. How expensive is your project, sir? So I was saying a while ago, are you going to use RFID? What are those expensive biometrics, eye scanner, Arduino? Well, Arduino is not that expensive, but yeah, if you need to create like super expensive projects like maybe cloud storage, you need cloud storage, tapos you don't want to use those free like in Heroku.com and other stuff. So you need to consider the cost of your project. Are you really willing to gastos? Are you willing to spend all of this money just in order to pass? And maybe you're not still familiar with the technology. Ayun, so kaya mo ba? Ayan. And then what is the purpose? Of course, the first thing that you need to look for a project is to look for the problem, especially in the capstone setting, because you're going to look for clients who needs you. Yeah. But there are also projects like my advicees, they actually created a startup business setting because they looked for a problem and there are no direct we call this direct client to where it will be deployed. So they just created this startup company, quote unquote, that will create the ride hailing app and maybe they can earn some money there. Well, the feasibility study says so. I don't know if that will be implemented properly. Ganyan. So for the purpose, if example, you're let's say my study before when I was in undergrad, uh, we created this system of having a centralized database of all the churches here in the Diocese of Bayumbong. So Diocese of Bayumbong is Vizcaya and Quirino. Okay, so we created the centralized database for that, for the baptismal certificate, confirmation certificate, wedding, and death certificate in the church, so that our main problem is, the reason we did that is it's so hard for me as a person, ako mismo, it's hard for me traveling to, they call this, traveling to where I was baptized just to get my baptismal certificate and then going back like balikan. So that was so hard for me. And then I thought of it like, let's just create a centralized database for this one and maybe integrate it like how NSO did it. So it was finished. It didn't came through. It was not implemented, fully implemented because of the expenses. Well, it's not our fault because when we asked the client, the church, are you willing to spend this amount of infrastructure for this one? And they said yes. So we pushed through with the project. But then during the development of our project, the bishop was changed, from Bishop Villena to, I forgot the name, not the recent one. And he pulled out the budget for the project. So we were on hold, but so we didn't fully implemented the project. But so yeah, muntikan kami hindi nakagraduate. Actually, hindi talaga kasi our, yeah, they allowed us to march, but our transcript of records was on hold for 5 years until like the dean was changed and we were pleading the new dean to, I mean, the merging came. So we were part of SEAIT already and we were just pleading to Ma'am Tessie, Ma'am, can you please give us our TOR? This is what happened, blah, 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 blah. So that is like some some fault din naman sa administration. Anyway, going back. So, length. How long are you going to finish the project? So, you're only given 1 year to finish the project. So, given the the next semester, second sem, and the next sem after that. So, first sem of fourth year. So, you're going to finish your thesis by that. Can you do it? Yon. So, is it possible possible ba siya na you will finish the project with proper sleep time? Like you're just working like 8 hours a day. You're not really overboarding like overnight every day. You're living in one roof. Mga ganung level. You need to consider those because that's not healthy. If you're spending your thesis life in a house, in only one house, and you barely sleep, and your coffee, ano yan? Parang kape na lang nagpapatakbo ng buhay mo, well, that's not healthy and it's part of a poor planning. So you need to consider those. And then, of course, risk. How much risk are you going to take in creating your projects? Is it, wow, I really sound like an inspirational speaker, right? Parang ako nagpa-front. Sige, wait lang. So for the risk, how likely is it that the project will succeed or fail? That's why we have your feasibility studies and the other parts of system requests and all in order to see the risk already bago pa mag-start. Kaya mo pa bang ituloy or may oras ka pa bang umatras? Do you still have the time to back out or change to another title before you proceed? Maybe when you're starting to create the project, if you didn't see the risk, if you started the project, you may be on the middle and then you get hard stuck there. So it's really hard to go back to zero after that. And then there's the scope. How much of the organization is affected by the system, a department, a division, or the entire corporation? So this is another factor of having your group mates, sa yung scope ng projects. So for the scope, same with the size, they're looking over the scope if it is possible that 4 people could do it or maybe only 2 person could do it, yet you insist of doing it by 4. most probably hindi yun papayagan. Okay. And then finally, you have the economic value. How much money does the organization expect to receive in return for the amount of the project cost? This is where your economic feasibility study will came through. Kailan yung, when is the ROI of the said project? Is it in 3 years? Is it in 5 years? Or are there guaranteed earnings, or baliktaya lang ba, or mas malulugi sila? So you have to consider those. Okay, so first is you have to create your project plan. So I'm just going to discuss today the different methodologies of how to create a system. So these are called system methodologies. You can choose on what is applicable to your system or to the project that you're already thinking, ganyan. So the first is, this is like the most basic one. So these are, as I was saying, these are project methodology options. So first is the waterfall development. Why waterfall? Because waterfall goes down and no backup. The water from the waterfalls just baba lang. Yeah. So as you can see in this, yes. So with waterfall development, analysts and users proceed sequentially. Sunod-sunod lang siya from one phase to the next. So the the deliverables for each phase are typically voluminous. So why is that? Kasi before proceeding to analysis, to design, or to implementation, you really need to make sure that the plan is perfect. If not perfect, like really, really close to perfect. Because once you proceed to the analysis, you cannot go back. So it needs a lot of times of planning, and you really need to decide everything, including the design, the structure, the infrastructure of the system, and all of those things. You really need to discuss everything before proceeding. Okay, so this has like voluminous, hundreds of pages, because all of the diagrams, all of the blueprint of the system is already existing before you proceed to the next step. So risky siya in a way because you cannot go back. Itong kumbaga walang control Z. But for small projects and with really defined user goals and user stories, you can actually proceed with this one. Next is we have the parallel development. So same with, this is also a kind of waterfall, but it's just may onting difference lang. So instead of doing the design and implementation in a sequence, a general design for the whole system is performed. Then the project is divided into series of sub-projects that can be designed and implemented in parallel. So once all sub-projects are completed, there's a final integration of the separate pieces and the system is delivered. So what is the difference between this and the waterfall? As you can see here, the waterfall, diretso lang siya. And then for the parallel development, once you finish the planning and analysis in the design, you will break down the system into subsystems. Then you can develop those in parallel. Para if ever something came up with one segment or one module, you can actually salvage it without ruining the whole system. And then if everything goes well, you will be integrating all of those. You will implement all of those, integrate as one, and then the system will be delivered. Okay, so next is we have the V model. This is another variation of the waterfall development that pays more explicit attention to testing. So as you develop it, as you're developing it, gumagana na rin yung testing na part. So development process proceeds down, pag ganon. So we have the analysis, and then design. And then for the design, left hand, defining requirements and designing system components. At the base of the V, this is the implementation. Yung code ay nag-start na. So at the upward node, you have the unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and acceptance testing. So at the same time pa rin, it's still waterfall. Like you can still go back to the previous step, but it has like testings so that you can see what's wrong. Ayun. So before being implemented and accepted by the client or the user. Okay. Oh, what happened? Okay. So we also have what we call RAD. Yes, very RAD. So RAD is Rapid Application Development. This is a collection of methodologies that emerge in response to the weakness of waterfall development and its variations. So RAD incorporates special techniques and computer tools to speed up the analysis and all. While RAD can improve the speed and quality of system development, it may also introduce a problem in managing user expectations. As systems are developed more quickly and users gain a better understanding of the information, user expectations may dramatically increase and some system requirements may expand during the project. So these are also called as scope creep or feature creep. So what does this mean? If you can remember how the LMS was created, like really it's super abrupt, 'di ba? Like, oh, COVID is here, we need to do something. Tapos we we still tried to use Edmodo and all of those. Oh my god, it's been a year or more na pala. Uh, and then the CICT created the LMS, the very amazing LMS. Char. Okay, so with the LMS, di ba bigla siyang, para siyang kabuti na lumabas? So they use RAD actually for that. Kasi they just use well, when you're using RAD kasi, you are using templates or some open source softwares that can help you do things easily. So for LMS, they use Moodle. So Moodle is like a courseware LMS, a open source LMS that you can customize according to your preference and yan. So they just embedded the logos and all, change the colors, change the font maybe. Pero ang pangit. Wala kang narinig ha? Okay, so, and then here comes the bosses of St. Mary's University that sees the capability of the LMS. And then, why do we need, like, can we integrate this one? Can we put like a video call feature? Can we have the checking of the attendance inside the LMS? Kineso, kinemero. Ano pa gusto nila? Mag-tumbling tayo doon sa LMS. Yan. So that's what we call the scope creep or the feature creep. Because as people are being exposed to the technology or to the system that you created, people are getting demands because of how fast you deliver. Ay, wala naman na silang ginagawa kasi tapos na nila yung LMS. Sige, lagyan natin ng ganito. Lagyan natin ng ganyan. See? So that is one of the downfalls of RAD. Well, if you're going to rate the LMS, if I'm going to rate the LMS, it's not that good. That's why we're here. Well, it's good for quizzes and all. Pero, syempre, pag exams, you know what's happening. Oh, one feature of the LMS is that, the exam part. Because when you have the exams, di ba it will not open if your permit is not available, if you don't have your permit. So that's another scope creep. Parang pinadagdag na naman nila because how are you going to see if the students don't have their permit, keme, ganyan. So people will get demands if you deliver fast. So, tip? De, joke lang. Deliver fast, please. Okay, so next is this is under RAD as well. You have the iterative development. So this will break the overall project into a series of versions that are developed sequentially. So the most important and fundamental requirements are bundled into the first version of the system. So this version is developed quickly by a mini waterfall process, and once implemented, the users can provide valuable feedback to be incorporated into the next version of the system. So what can we have for this? So iterative is creating like the version 1.0.0.000, like the super basic parts. If you're playing if you're aware with NFT games, Well, I'm not saying Axie because Axie is kind of complicated on the first release already. Let's say Tamadroid or PVU. What else? Those games. Crypto Blades. Yan. Well, not, yeah, siguro. Tamadroid, yung mga ganun. So, they released the basic game, like, especially Tamadroid, they just released like last month or mga second week of September. And then the only thing that you can do with it is to log in and walk around the map of the game. So then people will will look at it, report bugs every day. They're really demanding for everyone to report their bugs and all. Ayun. So as they can see, as the day continues, the developers will get their feedback with the bugs, ganyan, and then they're going to check. So every day, as they are continuously developing the system, but the system is already deployed, as in out siya. So that when the next version will come out, all the bugs will be addressed together with other features. So it's a continuous development, kumbaga. So when it comes to Axie din naman, so for the developers, they kinda do that by, let's say, well, it's kinda late to say it now, but they have the last season, season 18, so they gather all the data about the nerfs and the buffs and the bugs and all of those, and then they're going to incorporate those to the next version. And then to the start of the season, what are the cards that they're going to nerf, what they're going to buff, and is the gameplay balanced and all of those stuff. So this is not just about games, ha? So there are also applications that integrate this one. So if almost generally almost all apps when they have versions, ganon. But it depends on how they deploy it first. Ayan. So they also have what we call the system prototyping. Ayan. So this will perform the analysis, design, and implementation phase concurrently in order to quickly develop a simplified version of the proposed system and give it to the users for evaluation and feedbacks. So the system prototype is a quick and dirty version of the system and provides minimal features. Following reaction and comments from the users, the developers reanalyze, redesign, and reimplement at a second prototype that corrects deficiencies and adds more features. What is the difference between this one and the iterative development is this system prototype is not being posted live or it is not really integrated live. So they're just beta testers that will test the prototype and then they will give the feedback and then another prototype will be released and then go back. So I think Genshin do this. They have they have beta testers to check the update, ganyan. Pero gago sila, nililik nila. Anyway, so those are the prototypes that going around. Parang there are specific testers only. I remember when LMS before it was released, we were one of the testers. We were one of the testers, pero wala naman nagbago, te. So what happened, what we see there sa LMS test before, nung testing, is just the same when it was when it was released live. So when you do this, you need to do it properly, ha? You're not just going to test to let everyone test it, and then you will not consider their feedbacks. Anyway, so sobrang galit ko sa LMS. Hindi naman ako galit actually. But what I really hate about that website is it doesn't have a night mode, a dark mode, or any sort of that. Because like the white is bam in your face. You're waking up at 6 a.m. and prepping for your class and like, hello, good morning. Gugulat ka talaga dun sa sa UI niya. Oh my God. Anyway.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes?
About LMS. Ma'am, in most of, kasi my sister's also in college, she's in nursing book. I often hear her teachers telling them I have the list of cheaters on the data in LMS. Now, for me, I think that's kind of bullshit because I don't recall there ever having parang like a tab scanning feature sa LMS.
Yeah.
Can I confirm, ma'am, that it doesn't really exist and
Yeah,
they're just fluffy?
it doesn't really exist. I think me and Jovant had this conversation eh. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, we had this conversation already, but that's bullshit. Like, because here guys, when you're opening Chrome and your camera or your mic is used, merong icon dito sa gilid. Dito sa, basta dito. What app am I going to use? Ayun, may icon dito sa gilid na camera. Camera icon. If you're opening LMS, there's no such thing as that. So, and then meron pa kasi yung parang, for example, when you're going to play on YouTube, tapos you're going to play a song, so then you're going to have these icons here that you're going to like the LMS is, sorry, like the website is using your microphones and such. So, yeah, that's bullshit. They're just messing with the students. Ay, bakit duplicate, bobo? Wait lang ah. Sikreto
May
lang natin yun eh.
kaya, sorry, I tried to explain kasi to my sister.
Don't say na let them panic. Charot. Well,
Too
that's,
late, narinig na ng sister ko, ma'am.
okay lang. Pero that's bullshit. Like, sabi nga ni, yeah, sabi ko nga, we had this conversation with Jovant and Donald. Like, paano yun? Is that possible? No, it's not. Sabi ko ganun. Unless, nga, di ba? Like, sobrang laki nung kinukuha nung LMS na data, which is not really feasible, that can open your cameras or your microphones in, or your screen, what do you call this? Your screen movements. Kasi 'di ba they say na if you alt tab to Google, like they can detect it, 'di ba? Those there are teachers who say that. Sorry for bursting their bubbles, but it's not true. Kasi unless they have the technology, but yeah, you're just embedding to Moodle. Shut up, parang ganun. Joke lang. Wala ulit kayo narinig sa akin, ha? Okay, so we proceed. Uy, hey, here's the mouse. Ayan. So you have, this is, this is last version of RAD. This is what we call throwaway prototyping. So instead of having a system prototype, you're actually deploying just the design prototype. It includes the development of prototypes, but uses the prototypes primarily to explore design alternatives rather than the actual new system. So you're just making the testers see your design because may tiwala ka naman sa backend. Or there are private or private data that cannot be exposed. Therefore, you're just showing them the design. So throwaway prototyping has a fairly thorough analysis phase that is used to gather requirements and to develop ideas for the system concept. Thus, many of the features suggested by the users may not be well understood. However, there may be challenging technical issues to be solved. So each of these issues are examined by analyzing, designing, and building a design prototype. So it's not intended to be a working system, and it contains only enough details to enable users to understand and issue these issues under considerations. So this is most probably just front-end people talking. Kasi yung back-end is may sarili siyang buhay and don't want to expose any secret material that is being used in creating the system. So, and then we have, of course, we have already discussed Waterfall, we already discussed RAD, and we have Agile. So, you will hear this a lot, this term, Agile development, Agile methodology. It's all over Asia. Joke. It's all over this subject and the next subjects to come. Because SMU really pushes you to use Agile. Pero if you don't want to, okay lang, basta ma-justify mo. And even companies, IT companies uses Agile because of its iterative nature. And it is also programming centric methodology. What do I mean by that? So, this is a group of programming centric methodologies that focus on streamlining the SDLC. So much of the modeling and documentation overhead is eliminated. Instead, face-to-face communication is preferred. Well, wala namang face-to-face. So maybe virtual face-to-face. What is really good about Agile kasi is you have your personal rapport with your client. You need to visit them every now and then because you're going to deliver your output, and then ask for their feedback, and then you're going to do it again, ask for their feedback, paulit-ulit. Especially sa, buong development yon until the implementation. So, I'm going to explain it later. But what's good about Agile kasi, the first parts pa lang, di ba, we have discussed that you will be having your, anong term na ulit yon? Yung tao sa yung system shit. Ano na? What do you call that? The person that will fund your will fund your project?
Sponsor.
Ah?
Sponsor.
Oo, yun ba yung term? Anyway, pero basta yung sponsor.
Project sponsor.
The project sponsor. Thank you so much. Ayun, so you will be meeting with your project, and then this is the work of the system analysts, of course, and they will be sharing, bantering every now and then in order to finish your analysis phase, your planning phase. Ayan. So the cycles are short for this one, and the development team focuses on adapting to the current business environment. So if there are sudden changes with the business environment, you can actually adapt because of Agile. Bali, the very, very essence of Agile is the adaptability to change. Yeah, like you're really coping with change. Yan. Sana all nakaka-cope sa change. Char. Okay, so there are several popular approaches to Agile. You have Extreme Programming, XP, Scrum, and Dynamic System Development Method, or DSDM. Not the BDSM that you know. Okay, so first is we have XP. I really like this one, but these are for small projects only. Okay. So you have, this emphasizes customer satisfactory and teamwork, communication, simplicity, feedback, and courage are the core values. So the developers communicate with customers and fellow programmers every now and then. Designs are kept simple and clean. So, early and frequent testing provides feedback, and the developers are able to courageously respond to changing requirements and technologies. So project teams are kept small. So what do we mean by this? Kapag XP kasi, when you have XP, you're breaking down a big project, a project into smaller projects. So it's like marami, it's like a lot, but it's actually the same. But you're taking the approach one by one. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So first is you have the planning. What you're going to do with the planning is you're going to discuss everything that needs to be finished, and you're going to break down the whole system into modules. So that's what I'm talking about. And then you're going to develop the module 1, the analysis, the design, and the implementation. Then you're going to deliver it, the system. And then you're going to ask for the feedback of your client. And then you proceed to module 2, the analysis, design, and implementation. Yan. And then you integrate the corrections from the first one. And then you deliver it, module 1 and module 2. And then next one. Ganon. So ganun yung XP. Well, it's the same. Well, that's Agile in general. Pero what's the difference between XP and Scrum? Is the Scrum is an adaptable, fast, flexible, and effective Agile framework that is designed to deliver value to the customers throughout the development of the project. So the difference between XP and Scrum is, for XP, you will be going with the analysis, design, and implementation. Tapos sa kakaiikot, and then you analyze again, design, and implementation. For the Scrum, you finish the planning and analysis, and then when you're on the design, that's where you go iteration. Well, this is not really clear. So there are different people involved in Scrum. So we'll be discussing this next meeting. We'll be talking about Scrum next meeting. So, pero ang pinaka-gist ng Scrum is, di ba, you have the planning phase, you need to determine everything, and then analysis, you need to create the blueprint of your system, all of those things, and then you start with the module 1 for the design, and then finish module 1, implement it, deliver it to your client, the client will create their feedbacks, go back to the design. And then when you finish design 1, you are also creating design, when you finish when you receive the feedback for module 1, you should already be creating module 2 so that your next delivery will be module 1 and module 2. Pupunta kay client, then babalik, then module 1, module 2, module 3, and so on and so forth. So what's good about that is, for example, you have 5 modules. You will be delivering 5 times, bale. When you're going to the end of your system, it is already finished and clear of all corrections and critics because the system is already going around your client. So the client has this idea what's already happening to your system. You can actually also integrate it unti-unti. Kumbaga, if for example, the first part of your program is user management, for example. Example lang. And then you delivered the user management. Actually, the client can already encode the people inside of the system so that when it is delivered back to you, you can integrate it with the new database na meron ng laman. So when then paikot-ikot, so when you're going to implement, it's actually finished already. Ayan. That's why SMU suggests that you use Scrum or Agile in your thesis because of these reasons. So that you can establish rapport to your users, ganyan. Pero syempre, I really wish that you will not have your thesis virtually. It's so hard for the 4th years talaga. Anyway, so yeah, Agile versus Waterfall. I'm wrapping this up na. So Agile versus Waterfall, Agile development approaches have existed for over a decade. So Agile development practices were created in part because of dissatisfaction with the sequential, inflexible structure of the waterfall-based approach. So, yeah, if you can see nga naman talaga, the difference between waterfall and agile is the flexibility of the approaches because if you proceed to the next part of the waterfall, you cannot go back. So if you forgot to do something, you really need to scrape off and start again. So presently, Agile development has made inroads into software development organization, and studies show that even split between Agile and Waterfall users. So many organizations are experimenting with Agile even while continuing to employ traditional Waterfall approaches. So, yan. Yun yung sinabi ko when I interviewed some of my students before, they really said that, oh my God, Agile changed my life. I'm so happy that I learned how to use Agile. This is not an Agile appreciation. Pero yeah, he said that, like one of my friend and my student before na, he said sa akin na, I usually don't listen to SAD before and I regret it. Kasi yung Agile talaga yung naging stepping stone niya para ma-promote sa work. Kasi dun sa group of fresh grads sila na pumasok sa work, siya lang yung marunong mag-agile. Tapos parang ginawa siyang team lead agad ng mga newbies. Tapos parang he was creating this backlogs, sprint backlogs, and all of those stuff. Ayan. So malalaman niyo yung mga yan next meeting. So, a little bit of chika. If you know the if you're part of the SSGP of SEA8, that crazy tutorial services every, I don't know, kung kailan ka nagmi-meet. Ayun, so the SSGP, di ba, you have to sign, ganyan. So, with this, when you're having your scrum, you really need to do that. You really need to have a meeting, an SSGP every now and then, maybe every week, in order to foresee the project. Ayun. Okay, so you need to select the appropriate development methodology. So, yeah, how useful each method in when you're choosing your uh, project. So, if the usefulness in developing system, if you're not clear, if the user requirements are still not clear, you go with system prototyping, throwaway prototyping, and agile. Because you can go back nga, sabi ko nga, with this waterfall gang, you can't. So with unfamiliar technology, you can have iterative, kasi at least nagtatest na ka, you're testing as you develop. And then, of course, you can use throwaway programming because you can just show naman the design and then you study the technology if anything happens, edi go. And then, there are complex. You can use waterfall. System prototyping, not that much because you will be exposing the system to the live audience. And if it's complex, maybe some of those will not be used. And useless din lang yung patesting mo. You can also have throwaway. And of course, you have the that are reliable. So everything naman except system prototyping again. And then with short time schedule, for speed development talaga, you need to have iterative and system prototyping. Well, Agile is also good with that. And then with schedule visibility, iterative system prototyping, good din naman tong dalawa. Okay. Hey, 10 minutes. Any questions? Bahay ka pa,
Wala.
opo.
Wala ata, ma'am.
Wala.
Wala ata.
Hi, ma'am, wait lang lang
Maybe
ako.
later on.
Ha?
Natulog.
Maybe later on, ma'am, when we dive into our project.
What? Ano yan?
Later on, ma'am.
Oh.
When we dive into our project, we'll ask you some questions.
Oh. Wait. Choppy ka. Pa-type? Pa-type na lang sa ano? Pag may tanong kayo? Sa conference discussion. Choppy. Sorry, ako ata mahina ba signal ko? Saan makakabili ng printer na alam?
Ma'am, question about our capstone project.
What? Ano?
If whatever we mentioned to there, ma'am, we're gonna have to develop it like as in it's working, or just the concept behind it.
No. For the capstone project, you need to finish it until implementation.
Okay.
Asan yung question ni Mr. Sinib? Sorry, choppy talaga kanina. Kaya nga I was saying a while ago na dapat when you choose your project, make sure that it's really feasible to finish until the end line, until the implementation. Kasi you really need, there's this part na you need to plan for the implementation and maintenance of the system that you're going to do. Well, it is naman, yung cross-discipline development, na you can team up with COE, ECE, if you wish to lang naman. May tanong pa kayo? Maliligo na ako.
Ma'am, pwede daw 5 sa grouping sa members.
Ayun ang depende kapatid. Kasi, ilan na kayo sa batch nyo?